Take a little time out and come along with the pet detectives on their endless adventures that will take our brave team just down the block and around the world. From finding lost pets and loved ones to solving mysteries where others have failed. Now all you need to bring is your imagination and your sense of humor. Episode 2, The Pet Detective Name. On our last episode, Mrs. Simmons, the peach cobbler lady, gave our team their name, the Pet Detectives. This had our young team of unlikely friends very excited about all the possibilities and adventures that might lay ahead. Now our group, made up of Pepe, the Chihuahua, Charlie, the French Brittany Spaniel, Bailey, the beautiful Siamese cat with her ever-present pearl necklace, Samuel and Isaac, the twin red foxes that can only be told apart because of Isaac's black-rimmed glasses, Colonel, the Chihuahua wiener dog mix, Ruger, the big bird dog with an even bigger bark, Polly Opossum, the possum, and the little country boy named Thomas. Now they all lived out in the country and surrounded by farms and fields, where friends and playmates were few and far between. This meant you couldn't be picky and only play with the friends you really liked. And if you wanted to play, you'd have to play the games they liked too. Sometimes even help them finish their chores so everyone could join in on the fun. This is the unwritten code when growing up in the country. Unless all you want to do is play catch by yourself, you must abide by this code. Now that they have a name and an idea of what to do, how can they let others know about the Pet Detectives? There are all kinds of ideas, from putting flyers on telephone poles, maybe a roadside billboard. Then Pepe the Chihuahua chimed in and suggested he could host a telethon on TV saying Charlie had been kidnapped again. Right then, Ruger, the big bird dog with an even bigger bark, started barking to drown out Pepe. Now Pepe, can be unaware of how rude he is sometimes, said, "What? What did I say?" All the while knowing full well he had pushed it too far again. Now Colonel, the Chihuahua dog, said he had seen in the paper about the 4th of July parade next week, and they could enter and paint their own sign and carry it in the parade and hand out candy with their name and phone number on them. Done! Everyone is on board with little Colonel's idea. They all started work right away. Now since Polly Opossum is the only detective with a phone, she agreed to let them use her phone number to put it on the sign and the candy. It all came quickly together, as did the day of the parade. Our little pet detective team arrived at the parade, checked in, and got in place in line, and then they became very intimidated. Pepe said, "No one's gonna notice me. I mean us." And yes, the team did have to admit, even though it came from Pepe, that with all the marching bands, cowboys on horses, it was going to be very difficult for anyone to notice our little team. Well, right then, Samuel and Isaac, the twin red foxes, showed up with costumes for everyone. Well, since Samuel and Isaac's parents were U.S. foreign diplomats in Eastern Europe at one time, Samuel and Isaac, the boys, had worked part-time for the traveling circus, where they learned to juggle and ride unicycles at the same time. So they quickly handed out costumes they had brought. Pepe had a top hat and a megaphone, and he was master of ceremonies. Charlie was Sherlock Bones. Now Bailey, the beautiful Siamese cat, was Snow White. Polly Opossum, a leprechaun. Colonel the Chihuahua dog? Yeah, you guessed it, he was a hot dog. Ruger, the big bird dog, a fisherman. Samuel and Isaac were twin clowns. Well, the band started and the parade began. Oh, where's little Thomas? Oh, well, he's with his great-granddad harvesting peanuts in Texas on his farm. He needed little Thomas to come out and help this year. However, great-granddad loved to play jokes on little Thomas. So he told Thomas that he would have to dress up like a little peanut or he would scare all the peanuts and they would stampede. Now, according to Great Granddad, the last time this happened, they all stampeded straight into a rock fence and turned into peanut butter. Now, Thomas knew there was something up with Great Granddad's story, but Thomas's great grandma made a mean pecan pie, and this made it all worth it. Now back to our parade. The pet detective team carried their candy on shoulder bags, kind of like the ones you see the mailman use. And Polly and Bailey carried the sign. Samuel and Isaac, the boys, were riding their unicycles, juggling bags of candy as they tossed them out to the crowd. Then everything stopped. The marching band's leader, the band major, had twisted his ankle and could not go on. And then, above all the noise, Pepe, with his megaphone, stood in front of the band and cried out, "Never fear, Pepe is here." I mean, the pet detectives. Now, Pepe wasn't banned all 4 years of high school, so he counted off. 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, and away they went. Pepe naturally could not refrain from doing his little dance moves while leading the band, and our team did have to admit he's pretty good. No, he's real good at this, as Pepe puffed out his chest, tilted his head back, in a high-stepping in an exaggerated style. Meanwhile, the boys on the unicycles were drawing full attention to our team from the capacity crowd lining the street. However, Ruger did notice that the candies were not making it to the children in the back of the crowd. Now Ruger, who was dressed like a fisherman, because he is a real fisherman, tied bags of candy to his fishing line and, using his considerable skills, would cast out over the crowd, and just before it reached the back of the crowd, Ruger would snap the line tight and the candy came loose and flying all over the rear of the crowd. Now, when the children realized it was Ruger who was delivering the candy, they all shouted Ruger's name. And Ruger, not one to disappoint, sharpened his casting skills, and the candy was flying all over the place. Everything was rolling now, and our team was performing and getting the pet detective's name out there. Pepe leading the marching band, he was in a zone. Then, above all the noise, Charlie heard a cry out. "Help! Help! Help!" which in the pet detective world is known as a classic 3-help alarm. Charlie, who has a nose for direction, quickly sniffed out where it was coming from, and he was there in a flash. Charlie introduced himself as Charlie from the pet detectives, and the lady said, "I didn't lose my pet. I can't find my son." Right at that moment, the rest of the team arrived. The lady looked confused and she said, I get it. Pet detectives." Now Pepe pushed his way to the front as if he needed to be there, but Charlie already had asked the mother for a description of her son. She said, "Well, he's a little boy. He has a striped yellow shirt on and a New York Yankees baseball cap on." Now Pepe, being a lifelong Giants fan, said, "Well, I think I see the problem." Ruger didn't even have to bark this time. He just growled very deeply, and it sent a shiver down Pepe's spine. Charlie asked for the boy's name, and the mother replied, "Roosevelt Archibald Huxley III." Whoa! The whole pet detective team inhaled. That's a mouthful. "But he goes by Billy." Pepe said, "Of course he does. Why wouldn't he?" And he rolled his eyes and snickered. Bailey, the beautiful Siamese cat, said to Mrs. Huxley, "We will find Billy, and we're on the case right now." The team quickly spread out, and Bailey stayed with Mrs. Huxley to comfort her and calm her, and in case little Billy had came back on his own. The team searched the park thoroughly, but they could not find Billy until they saw a commotion over at the far end of the playground by the big slide, and there they could see that Billy was halfway up the very, very tall slide, and he froze. Then Billy stood frozen by his fear of heights. The pet detectives jumped into action. There was a construction crew working next to the playground, and it just so happened that the crew was on their lunch break. The pet detective team asked the construction crew if they could borrow some hard hats, vests, and their crane. Now this might sound like a big request, but Ruger used to work with this construction crew, and he has his crane operator license, so the crew kindly agreed. Pepe, meanwhile, was putting his megaphone and loud voice to good use, as he needed to get all the kids back away from the big swing and slide. Pepe barked out, "Attention! Attention! I'm Pepe with the Acme Big Swing and Slide Company from Waukesha, Wisconsin, and we are here to complete a safety inspection of all the big swings and slides. Pepe never could say apparatus. Now everyone down off the slide, except for that little boy with the Yankees cap on." Now Pepe could be a sarcastic guy, but deep down he is a softie, and he's also afraid of heights too. As the children climbed down off the very tall slide, Ruger started up the crane. The boys, Samuel and Isaac, the twin red foxes, were in the safety basket. They had a rope and a safety harness for Billy. With the boys, Samuel and Isaac, in the basket, Ruger smoothly raised them high above the ladder on the very, very tall slide. Ruger placed them directly over Billy. So they lowered the rope with the safety harness on it down to Billy. The wind started blowing harder. Ruger expertly made the adjustments he needed to keep the rope from swinging away from Billy. The harness reached Billy and he put it on and properly buckled it up. The boys paid close attention, and when they were satisfied Billy was safely secure, they pulled the rope up tight so he wouldn't accidentally fall. However, Billy raised both hands in the air and yelled out, "I'm safe now!" and he lost his balance and slipped off the ladder on the slide. The boys had to hold on tight or all would be lost. With Billy tied to the rope, and the boys, Samuel and Isaac, in the safety crane basket, holding on to Billy's safety rope, he was now on the biggest swing ever. The wind blowing harder now, the boys held on to the rope with all they had, as Ruger slowly lowered Billy to the ground, little by little. At the end of each very, very long swing, Ruger would lower him down a little more. And when Billy finally reached the ground, he said, "I'm not afraid of heights anymore." "Wonderful," said Pepe, trying not to be sarcastic and rude again. While all this was going on, Bailey could see the boys, Samuel and Isaac, in the crane basket high up in the air, and she knew they must have found Billy. So Bailey and Mrs. Huxley quickly made their way over to the slide area. Now when Billy reached the ground, his mom was there, and Mrs. Huxley thanked our brave team and asked if she owed them anything. Well, of course they didn't charge Billy's mom anything. Doing the right thing was more important. As the pet detective team were returning the crane and equipment, a cowboy approached them and asked if they could help him and his mom find their lost prize-winning bull. They have a ranch up in the foothills and can't find him. "Absolutely," they all answered. So, the pet detectives have a real name, a real case, so now they feel that they have begun their pet detective adventures. So tune in next time and enjoy the adventures of the pet detectives. Now Charlie kindly asks all of you to hit both the like and subscribe buttons and also ring that notification bell. And Little Colonel, he says by all means feel free to leave a comment. So tune in next time and learn how the pet detectives cowboy up.